Dear students, the second module under CE 482 EIA is water pollution. I have shared some videos regarding water pollution, but I would like to add some points which deal with water pollution. Now, as I told you earlier, pollution is anything that is unwanted in the unwanted concentration, in the unwanted place, in the unwanted time. Now, regarding water pollution, when we redefine it, it is presence of any material in water which is undesirable in the undesirable level. So, we can say that it is based on the source of pollution that we divide the kinds of water pollution. First one is point source pollution. Now, point source pollution says that the pollutant is from a single source. Now, non-point source pollution is the second kind of pollution of water pollution, where the pollution is created from many sources. In detail, when we go, we can understand that for a point source pollution, the pollutant can be traced to single source. That is, the source is easily identifiable. For example, the sewage from a broken pipe. The source is sewage pipe. The waste materials from a factory. It is the pipelines from the factory. Now, if we speak of non-point source pollution, as I told you before, the pollutants are from many sources. They reach water from more than one or different sources. And for example, we have runoff rainwater, which carries a mix of pollutants, which includes litter, oil, leaves, waste, grass clippings, etc. Now we'll deal with the sources of water pollution regarding the nature of pollutants. Now they are one by one as organic pollutants, pathogens, nutrients and agricultural runoff, suspended solids and sediments, which are both organic and inorganic in nature. Then inorganic pollutants, which include salts and metals. Then comes thermal pollution, and last, radioactive pollutants. Now let us go in detail. First one is organic pollutants. Now, organic pollutants are usually oxygen demanding waste, which includes domestic waste, municipal waste, sewage, industrial waste, food processing waste, slaughterhouse waste, canning industry waste, etc. Now, these pollutants are organic in nature and hence they contain biodegradable compounds, which are either suspended or in the colloidal form or in the dissolved form. Now, when we speak of biodegradable compounds, you have to understand that they undergo natural degradation, where complex molecules are broken down into simpler ones by microbial action. But During this process, the microbes use dissolved oxygen which is available in water for oxidation of these complexes, and thus it depletes the dissolved oxygen. Now, when there is a depletion in the dissolved oxygen, water is said to be polluted because the aquatic life, flora and fauna, which requires dissolved oxygen, will be affected. Now, flora and fauna refers to plants and animals. Now, we can say that water is said to be polluted if the dissolved oxygen level is below 4.0 mg per liter. Synthetic organic compounds are also present in the waste, and they enter ecosystem by its production, spillage, and during usage. As I told you before, there are organic pollutants, and they are biodegradable, and also those biodegradable organic pollutants occur naturally, or they are not synthetic. But another category of pollutant or water pollutant that reach water bodies is synthetic organic compounds. These are also organic in nature, and they enter ecosystem by its production, spillage, and during usage. For example, pesticides, detergents, food additives, etc. Now, water with these additives are unfit for drinking. Another example or another aspect or another product which creates water pollution is oil. It is a natural product which is formed from plant remains, which enters water bodies through oil spills, leak, wastewater from refineries, etc. As you know, oil is lighter than water and it floats on surface of water, and it spreads on surface and separates the contact of water with air, thereby not giving chance for oxygen to dissolve further into water. Now, this depletes the amount of dissolved oxygen in water bodies and endangers the water species. Now, another source of water pollution or another water pollutant is pathogens. Now, pathogens are disease-causing microbes. They enter the water through sewage, slaughter waste, etc. Now, these include virus, bacteria, etc., and cause diseases like cholera, dysentery, polio, hepatitis, typhoid, etc. Now, next source of water pollution or water pollutant is nutrients. Now, as you hear the word nutrients, you may feel that how does it become a pollutant? Now, nutrients are required for growth. So, when nutrients reach water bodies, they stimulate algal growth. The algal population increases. As a result, they consume a lot of dissolved oxygen at a faster rate because algae for photosynthesis uses dissolved oxygen. Now, when dissolved oxygen is getting depleted, aquatic life is getting affected. Hence, these nutrients act as pollutants. Again, in another aspect, when nutrients reach water bodies through agricultural runoff, wastewater from fertilizer industry, sewage, etc., they contain a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus. And it is this that supports algal growth. So this condition created by excessive nutrimental supply is called eutrophication. Now, eutrophication is created by excessive nutrients that reach water bodies, which proliferates algal growth and this proliferated algal growth depletes the dissolved oxygen, and the depletion of dissolved oxygen affects aquatic life that requires oxygen. Now, as an after effect of eutrophication, you can find that the species diversity decreases in water. The plant and animal biomass decreases. Turbidity increases. Anoxic condition prevails, or lack of oxygen prevails. Water pollutant. Another water pollutant is suspended solids and sediments. Now, suspended solids and sediments which pollute water are mainly silt, sand, minerals, etc., which are eroded from land and they reach water bodies through runoff. These prevent the sunlight from reaching the bottom vegetation for the process of photosynthesis. That is, as you know, water when has some suspended solids, as you know, these are suspended in nature, this will prevent the sunlight from reaching the bottom vegetation, and the vegetation at the bottom requires sunlight for photosynthesis, and hence suspended solids creates a kind of pollution. Also, some sediments which are deposited in the form of solids also will affect aquatic life as they enter the aquatic system. Now, there are some inorganic pollutants. That is, next is inorganic pollutants which creates water pollution. They are heavy metals, acids, salts, compounds, sulfates, cyanides, and other complexes of metals that reach water bodies will create or will affect the flora and fauna by creating health problems when these aquatic organisms are taken as food. That is, when inorganic compounds or inorganic pollutants, when we speak of organic pollutants, they are organic in nature, and inorganic are inorganic in nature. Now, inorganic means they are metals, acids, salt, compounds, sulfates, cyanides, complexes, etc. And when these heavy metals get accumulated in water bodies, they affect the plant and animal life, and they enter the food chain, or sometimes these animals in their intake it reaches their body, and when these animals or fishes are taken by human beings or when they are eaten up, they create health problems for those who take them as food. Also, you should understand that when these metals reach water bodies, they will increase the algal growth, which will deplete the dissolved oxygen, as I told you earlier. Because some metals support algal growth, and algae, as they grow or for their growth, they should use the dissolved oxygen. And when dissolved oxygen is used continuously, it will deplete the dissolved oxygen, and aquatic animals which use dissolved oxygen will not survive much. All fishes and organisms living in water require dissolved oxygen for their respiration. Again, high concentration of metals like mercury, copper, lead, arsenic, etc. brings toxicity to water, because these are toxic in nature, and these also will create death of aquatic life. And if it reaches the human beings or other organisms which feed on aquatic life, it will create problems in health for those organisms also. Next is a kind of thermal pollution created in water by thermal pollutants. From the term itself, you should understand that thermal is related to temperature. So you have to think, how does the temperature increase in water through pollutants? The discharge of hot water from thermal power plants, nuclear power plants, industries, where water is used as a coolant, increases the temperature of water bodies. As the temperature increases, bacterial growth increases, and hence they again use the dissolved oxygen and causes depletion to dissolved oxygen. Again, it affects life of water. Aquatic organisms. Last but not the least, the source of water pollution or the water pollutant is radioactive materials. Now, these materials originate from mining, processing of ores, research, medical waste, industrial waste, nuclear plants, nuclear reactors, nuclear bombs, nuclear tests, etc. For example, cesium-137, uranium-235, plutonium, all these are radioactive pollutants, and once they reach water bodies, they accumulate in the bones, teeth, etc. of aquatic organisms and those who consume those aquatic organisms. The radioactive materials accumulate in bones, teeth, etc. and cause serious disorder. You can identify certain physical characteristics because color, turbidity, taste, odor, temperature, form, conductivity, the dissolved solid. All these things are the physical nature of water or the physical characteristics of water, and they can be usually identified by the five senses of human, because color can be identified by your naked eye. Turbidity is something like what you call a colloidal dispersion of suspended particles that creates turbidity. It can be identified by your naked eye. Your tongue can understand the taste of water. Your nose can understand the odor of water, smell. Again, if you touch it or touch water, you can understand or feel the temperature of water. By direct naked eye, you can see the foam, FOAM, the lather of water. Again, you can, to a certain extent, feel the conductivity of water by touching. Again, the dissolved solid, which are dissolved, can be understood by using all the five senses. Now, color. As you come to color, pure water is usually colorless and transparent. And regarding turbidity, pure water is clear and does not absorb light. But when water becomes turbid, it has some colloidal particles which make water turbid, and it will have some color because the colloidal particles will absorb light. Next is taste and odor. The pure water is usually tasteless and odorless. Regarding temperature, regarding potability of water, that is, if you want to drink water, temperature is not an issue. But when temperature increases, what you understand is that the solubility of oxygen in water decreases. Solubility of oxygen in water decreases. That is, it becomes difficult for oxygen to get dissolved in water when the temperature increases. But a positive aspect of temperature is that when there is a temperature rise, it disinfects the water. But a negative effect is that rise in temperature of water will increase the growth of aquatic microorganisms, and these aquatic microorganisms will consume dissolved oxygen, and this will deplete dissolved oxygen. And all problems that are created due to depletion of dissolved oxygen, as I mentioned earlier, will be here also. Then comes the effect of foam, FOAM. Now, foam in water is due to lather creating substances or forming agents like detergent, soap, etc., which gets dissolved in water also. And this lather or foam, which is in the top layer, creates anaerobic condition. Will not allow oxygen to dissolve into the water. And sometimes they make it toxic also. Then another feature of or characteristic that is physical in nature for water is conductivity. The presence of ionizable inorganic compounds in water will split or ionize the compound, and the presence of ions in water creates conductivity. And so you have to understand that pure water has low conductivity. So when water gets impure, the conductivity increases due to presence of ionizable or ions in water. Next is total dissolved solids, or is a physical condition or physical characteristic of water, that is total dissolved solids. If you want to understand what total dissolved solid is, you can understand it when water is filtered to remove the suspended solids. The remaining solid inside water indicates total dissolved solid. Now, this dissolved solid may be organic or inorganic in nature. If the dissolved solid exceeds 300 mg per liter, it adversely affects living organisms and industrial products. This is what we have to understand regarding physical characteristics of water. Next is chemical characteristics of water. Now, chemical characteristics of water include chloride ion, effect of chloride ion, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, phosphate, then hardness, biological oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, dissolved oxygen, and pH. Now, these are the chemical characteristics of water. Now, among these, first we will deal with chloride ion. In normal water, chloride ion is in low concentration. But You can find when waste or pollutant like urine or sewage gets into water, chloride ions concentration increases because all these waste have high amount of chloride ions. So it gives a salty taste and corrodes pipelines of water also. Normally 150 mg per liter of chloride ion is harmless, but maximum permissible level for drinking water is kept as 200 mg per liter. In water, ammonia comes from the decomposition of organic matter. So the next chemical characteristics or the chemical characteristic is based on the presence of ammonia. So in water, the decomposition of organic matter. Now if you find organic matter like protein or amino acids, they decompose in water to form ammonia. The concentration increases, or the concentration of ammonia also increases when we disinfect water using chloramine. So in water, ammonia is usually oxidized into nitrite and then into nitrate. So if we measure the concentration of ammonia, nitrites and nitrates, we can predict the contamination created due to ammonia. The concentration of ammonia in groundwater system is usually 3 mg per liter, and if its concentration goes above 50 mg per liter, it gives characteristic taste and odor. That means when the concentration goes above 50 mg per liter, there is a particular taste and odor, and it's very characteristic or it's very identifiable. Next is nitrites as a chemical characteristic of water, or the presence of nitrites. As I told you, ammonia is converted to nitrites and nitrates. Now nitrites are very unstable and hence they are converted to nitrates. So they are unstable and they are formed during the conversion of ammonia into nitrates. Now in aerobic condition, nitrite is greater in drinking water, but it brings serious health hazard to consumers. Now some of the diseases that are being caused by the concentration of nitrite is blue baby syndrome, which occurs in infants. So the level of nitrite in drinking water should not exceed 3 mg per liter. Now as I told you, when nitrites are usually unstable and they get converted to nitrates. Now nitrates are stable oxide form of nitrogen in water. So in water, nitrate comes from organic matter decomposition and also from atmospheric nitrogen fixation. Now the nitrates, etc. should not exceed a concentration of 3 mg per liter in drinking water. The problem with nitrates is that as the quantity or the concentration of nitrates increases in water, the growth of aquatic plants creating eutrophication increases because nitrates promote the growth of aquatic plants and creates eutrophication, as I told you earlier. So they will deplete the dissolved oxygen. Now again in water, phosphate is present as polyphosphate. Now, phosphate is another characteristic or chemical characteristic of water which creates pollution. Now, phosphates reach water from agri waste, sewage, and industrial effluents. Phosphate is not toxic to human beings, but its high concentration in ponds creates eutrophication. That is, it will again proliferate the growth of aquatic plants. They will deplete the dissolved oxygen. Next effect due to chemical pollutant is hardness of water. Now, hardness is created by dissolved calcium and magnesium salt, as you have learned in your school. Permanent hardness created due to chloride and sulfate of calcium and magnesium. And water is classified on the basis of calcium carbonate concentration as soft water, moderately hard water, and very hard water. Now in soft water, the concentration of calcium carbonate is 50 mg per liter. In moderately hard, it is 50 to 150 mg per liter. And in hard water, it is 150 to 300 mg per liter. And in very hard water, it is 300 mg per liter. Another chemical characteristic of water is biological oxygen demand or BOD. As I told you, oxygen is required for living organisms for oxidation of biodegradable organic matters present in water under aerobic condition. That is, oxygen is required by living organisms for oxidation of biodegradable organic matters present in water under aerobic condition. That is, in the presence of oxygen, organisms oxidize biodegradable organic matters into simpler molecules. Now, BOD or biological oxygen demand is a direct measurement of the quantity of oxygen needed for biodegradation of organic matter and indirect measurement of quantity of biodegradable organic matter in water. So BOD is a direct measurement of quantity of oxygen needed for biodegradation of organic matter, and it is an indirect measurement of quantity of biodegradable organic matter in water. So you have to understand that if you know the value of oxygen required for degradation of organic matter, which is BOD, you can understand what is the quantity of this biodegradable organic matter in water. Now, when this biodegradable organic matter is added in water, the microorganisms directly act on them using the dissolved oxygen to oxidize these organic matter. Now, sometimes if the rate of consumption of oxygen during this biodegradation is greater than the solubilization of atmospheric oxygen into water, the level of dissolved oxygen will decrease. That is, as you know, when there is a consumption of oxygen for this biodegradation, the dissolved oxygen gets depleted. But from atmospheric pressure or due to the pressure of the air column above water surface, there is dissolution of oxygen into water. Thus, dissolved oxygen or oxygen gets dissolved in water. So, if the rate of consumption of the dissolved oxygen by the biodegradation is greater than the rate of dissolution of oxygen into water, there is a decrease in dissolved oxygen level. Now, if the organic matter content is very high, the complete loss of dissolved oxygen occurs because the BOD is very high or becomes very high. Now, due to this, there is an anaerobic condition in water, and hence high values of BOD indicates high degree of pollution. Next is chemical oxygen demand. Both chemical oxygen demand and biological oxygen demand are demands of oxygen. But the difference is that the chemical oxygen demand is the amount of oxygen needed for the oxidation of organic matter present in water by strong chemical oxidizing agents. That is, the agent that is converting the organic matter present in water using oxygen is strongly chemical in nature or is chemical oxidizing agent. Now, that oxygen demand is called chemical oxygen demand, and it is a measurement of particularly valuable to determine the amount of organic matter in water which contains toxic or antimicrobial chemicals. That is, the chemical matter or the toxic matter or the antimicrobial chemicals present in water or the amount of these organic matters which is present in water can be determined from measuring the chemical oxygen demand. For example, potassium dichromate is a strong oxidizing agent, and it oxidizes both biodegradable and non-biodegradable organic matters. Therefore, the value of COD is always greater than BOD for a particular water sample. COD gives the amount of total organic matter present in water. Next chemical aspect, nature of water, is dissolved oxygen. Now, as we have discussed all through, oxygen is highly soluble and get dissolved in water as it is due to the pressure of air column. Now, it's a source of oxygen for aquatic aerobic organisms like fishes, aerobic bacteria, and other life forms. In the absence of dissolved oxygen, most aquatic organisms cannot survive, and the presence is affected by many factors like temperature, organic matter content, etc. Solubility of oxygen in water decreases with increase in temperature of water. High temperature promotes growth and activities of aquatic microorganisms so that they consume oxygen at a faster rate. If organic content is very high, microorganisms utilize dissolved oxygen for its oxidation or for its oxidation, and hence it depletes dissolved oxygen. Next aspect that we have to deal with is in chemical nature is pH. pH value is altered from chemicals which are present in water like ammonia, calcium, magnesium, and it makes water alkaline. Water becomes acidic due to the presence of dissolved acids and carbon dioxide. The pH of water can be measured by automatically or quickly with the help of potentiometer also. So you can use the indicators like methyl orange, methyl red, phenol red, phenolphthalein, etc. to identify the pH range of water. Permissible pH value of public supplies may range between 6.6 to 8.4. The lower value of pH will cause incrustation, sediment deposits, difficulty in chlorination, etc. Next important aspect or chemical aspect is hardness of water. And hardness, whether it be temporary or permanent, it is undesirable because of its greater soap consumption, scaling of boilers, corrosion of pipes, and making food tasteless when cooked with. Temporary hardness is due to dissolved bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium, and they can be removed by boiling or adding lime. Permanent hardness is due to presence of sulfates, chlorides, and nitrates of calcium and magnesium, and they cannot be removed at all by boiling. They can be removed by softening. Last but not the least, we have biological characteristics of water. So, the biological characteristics are bacteria, protozoa, viruses, worms, and fungi. So these are biological in nature, and these create or these have or these affect the characteristics of water. Now, as we speak of bacteria, they are minute single-celled organisms, and they don't have a defined nucleus. They don't have a green material, and they don't synthesize through photosynthesis, but they are produced by binary fusion, and they have various shapes, and they create many diseases. They are pathogens, and they are classified as pathogens and non-pathogens. And pathogenic bacteria creates diseases, whereas non-pathogenic bacteria do not. There are aerobic and non-aerobic bacteria based on oxygen demand or oxygen consumption. An anaerobic bacteria can flourish in the absence of free oxygen dissolved in water, but aerobic bacteria requires oxygen for the survival. Again, next characteristic is protozoa, and they are single-celled animals, and they are lowest and simplest form of animal life. Now, bacteria eats and destroys pathogens, and they are counted using microscope. Next characteristic is viruses, and viruses spreads diseases and cannot be destroyed easily. Worms are another characteristics, and they are in the form of larvae or flies, and they can be destroyed easily. Because in water, for example, the mosquito larvae, they can be destroyed. They create, it's a biological pollution, and it's a characteristic of water. Again, fungi. Plants which grow without sunlight are called fungi, and they live on other plants or animals which are dead or alive. With this, the chemical, biological, and physical characteristics of water are completed, and we have few more things to deal with in the module, which will be given in the next audio class.